Well, I want y'all to imagine a truly terrifying scenario. Not some monster, no, and not a ghost either. Just an empty room. Now, you might think boredom, bless its heart, is harmless. That it's just a normal, everyday feeling, you know? But the truth? It ain't. It just might be one of the most powerful forces controlling your behavior right now. And to understand why, let's just take a look at a strange experiment. The researchers, they invited a group of ordinary volunteers, see? Normal people, just like you and me. Nothing special about them. Then they placed them inside a blank white room. No phones, no books, no windows. Just one single chair. And on a desk, a small red button. The instructions were simple, plain and simple. You have 15 minutes, sit here, and think. But there was one important detail. If they pressed the button, they would receive a painful electric shock. Now, you're probably imagining that the experiment ended exactly how you'd expect. A few boring minutes, a little staring at the walls, and then everyone went home. But that's not what happened. The first minute passes. Everything feels normal. Maybe they're thinking about dinner. Maybe they're replaying a conversation from earlier. Maybe they're checking the time. But then the second minute arrives, and the silence starts getting louder. By the fifth minute, something strange begins to happen. You realize there's nothing to look at, nothing to focus on, nothing to distract you. For the first time in a long time, the only thing left is your own mind. And for many people, that's where the discomfort begins. You start fidgeting, looking at the walls, looking at the desk, and then your eyes land on the red button. Suddenly, it becomes the most interesting thing in the room. Your brain starts screaming, "Do something, anything, just break this silence." One by one, people started pressing the button. Not because they wanted pain, but because their own thoughts had become harder to tolerate than the shock itself. One participant shocked himself over and over again, turning 15 minutes of boredom into a battle against his own mind. And that leads us to a disturbing question. Why is being alone with your thoughts so difficult? To answer that, we need to go back thousands of years. Back then, a bored human was a vulnerable human. If you weren't paying attention, you could miss a predator, you could miss food, you could miss danger. So evolution built a warning system into your brain. We call it boredom, but boredom is really a biological alarm, a signal pushing you to move, to explore, to pay attention. The problem is, you're carrying that same ancient brain into a completely different world. There are no predators in your living room, but your brain still hates empty silence. So we built a world filled with stimulation, infinite videos, infinite music, infinite scrolling, infinite distractions. And every time boredom appears, we make it disappear instantly. But here's where things get really interesting. Scientists have discovered an entire network inside your brain called the default mode network. And unlike most brain systems, this one becomes active when you're doing absolutely nothing. No work, no conversation, no entertainment, no stimulation. When your mind is left alone, the default mode network wakes up, and suddenly, your brain starts opening old files, embarrassing memories, old mistakes, unanswered questions, future worries, imaginary conversations, scenarios that may never happen, which means something important. The discomfort of boredom isn't always caused by boredom itself. It's often caused by what boredom reveals, and that's exactly why modern distractions are so powerful. Every notification you receive, every short video you watch, every time you unlock your phone for no reason, it's actually a tiny escape from boredom. A small attempt to avoid being alone with your own thoughts. The problem? Every time you run away, you make your brain a little less capable of tolerating silence, a little more dependent on stimulation, a little more uncomfortable with stillness, and the consequences can be serious. Some studies have found that people who experience chronic boredom are more likely to engage in impulsive behavior, addiction, risk-taking, and poor decision-making, because when the brain becomes desperate for stimulation, it often stops caring where that stimulation comes from. But here's the strange paradox. Boredom isn't the enemy. In fact, many psychologists believe boredom serves an important purpose because boredom is the feeling that tells you what you're doing right now is no longer worth your attention. It's what pushed humans to explore, to invent, to create, to search for something better. Without boredom, there would be no curiosity, and without curiosity, there would be no progress. The problem isn't boredom. The problem is that we've become too quick to escape it. We never stay long enough to discover what comes after it. So the next time you're standing in an empty elevator or sitting alone in silence and you feel that urge to reach for your phone, wait, just for a moment, and listen. Because maybe the biggest problem of the 21st century isn't that we have too many distractions, it's that we've lost the ability to sit alone with our own thoughts. Because a person who cannot tolerate 10 minutes of silence may spend an entire lifetime running from themselves.